here is Heather Dinnich's lead, who's an ESPN senior reporter. And she said the SEC needed only one team to reach the college football playoff last year to earn another national title. But there were moments the SEC could get 3 teams in, and Alabama, LSU, and Tennessee were in that mix. Of course, Georgia was going to be the team that was going to make it. We all knew that. But I don't see the college football playoff ever allowing, well, we just got 1 year left. I don't see them allowing 3 teams in a 4-team playoff from one conference. I just don't think that's a good look. I don't care if you can make the strongest argument in the world. They're going to find a way to manipulate that and bring in somebody else from another conference or a second team from another conference. But as we are at the beginning of the football season, the Big Ten or the SEC, who's more likely to get 2 teams in the college football playoff right now?
It's not because it's the better conference, but it's the Big Ten. And the reason it's the Big Ten is because there were legitimately only 3 elite teams in the Big Ten. So it's not like they can all beat each other up to give each other 3 losses on the year. So Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, one of those teams, there's a chance that 2 of those teams have 1 loss at the end of the year. There's a chance they all beat each other and they're all 11-1 at the end of the year.
Sure.
And then one of them, and then you have to figure out who's going to win the division and then who's going to play for the Big Ten title. You could really theoretically see that. And because of that, it's the Big Ten. Because I don't see anybody in the Big Ten not named Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan that's beating Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan this year.
Agreed. And you could see, Jaro, you could see those losses be to each other, and the Big Ten have a real argument with 3 one-loss teams that they should get 3 teams in the college football playoff. Again, I just don't believe, because of TV exposure and what all is going on with the rest of the college football world as far as the ACC and Pac-10, 12 trying to stay together, I don't think you're going to see 3 teams. But I'm with Calhoun for the same reasons. I think the Big Ten is more likely to get 2 teams in, as Alabama's in a bit of a transition year. I believe Georgia will be in. And then Tennessee and LSU are the next couple of teams that are battling for that position. But even though I think the SEC is the better conference, I think the Big Ten is the more likely to get 2 teams in this year.
I would disagree a little bit. I do agree that I don't think we'll see 3 teams in. I mean, even this past season, there wasn't a clear number 4 seed, but we saw TCU get in, and they'll find a way to work another conference in, because I feel like 3 teams from one conference just for I mean, you're going to have a rematch somewhere, more than likely. And we know how they feel about rematches. They will rework seeds just to avoid that rematch and give teams harsher opponents. I think we can see the SEC get 2 teams in, compared more likely than the Big Ten, just for the simple fact that Alabama plays Texas and LSU plays Florida State. Mm-hmm. So if we see Florida State win an ACC championship, which she points out in this article, or if we see Texas take the Big 12 championship and then LSU or Alabama has a win over that team, but then 1 loss in their conference record, that would boost their resume enough, I would think, for them to get in. As we've seen in the past, where sometimes the 2 best teams are in the same side of the SEC. So you have to work around that. And if you have a win over an ACC champion or a Big 12 champion, or both, if it works out in that case, then I don't see why we couldn't have an LSU or Alabama both make it into the playoff, and just whoever lost their matchup be the lower seed.
And Caleb, here's why you and I disagree on the television contracts. I think you're right on the front end that the Big Ten got the better television contract. They're spread out. They're going to get more money. But the SEC contract is with this group called ESPN. We've all heard of them, and I think ESPN pulls more strings than even we realize. If it comes down to a second Big Ten team or a second SEC team, I think ESPN would have some pull. If it's really, really close, if it's a coin flip, to get the second SEC team in because of their long-term relationship.
I mean, yes, but they could have gotten that and still gotten more money in the contract and not been stuck in a 10-year deal, while the Big Ten is in a 7-year deal right now. And look, we've all seen the stories where ESPN, just because of the business model of cord cutting, is having to lay people off left and right, which none of us like. We all hate when people lose their jobs. It's not a good thing. But this SEC deal is going to save ESPN because they're paying pennies on the dollar, or they're going to be making in bank on this. And it's funny because the SEC, we know this from behind the scenes, they're desperately trying to renegotiate with ESPN. Why would ESPN renegotiate with the SEC? Like, we got this deal, you guys signed it, we got y'all for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't re-up it.
I wouldn't, yeah.
Unless the SEC added Clemson and Notre Dame. And they came to you and said, we can't do this unless you re-up it. I mean, it would have to be something that was a huge impact on the conference and the sport for me to do anything like that.